During my audience with the Holy Father on 2nd January, he looked very frail. I thought the Holy Father will have to shed part of his workload. Never expected to have an announcement that the Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, was retiring on the papacy. As the leader of the House said, the last occasion was 600 years ago. So in the modern world, it is unprecedented. The Holy Father created a precedent, because we have also got to realize that after Pope John Paul II, the Pope is no longer only the head of the Universal Catholic Church. He is a spiritual and a moral leader of the world, as well as, of course, being the head of the Vatican State. So when the Pope is creating a precedent, I think our Parliament has also created a precedent, where we have assembled here to express our appreciation of the work that the Pope has done, the Holy Father has done during his tenure of office. Pope Benedict XVI is the successor to Pope John Paul II. Now that is a difficult act to follow. Pope John Paul II and Pope Leo III were the ones who were responsible for fashioning the Catholicism faith that we know today. It was Pope Leo III who crowned Charlemagne as the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, laying the foundation for the Western Christendom. Pope John Paul was responsible for the final stage of the collapse of communism, which united the European continent. And with the fall of communism, we brought a new political order. And once the ideological issues which threatened the Universal Catholic Church was no longer there, the other issues in the background came up. I mean, this has affected not only the Universal Catholic Church, but all religions, because ideology has been replaced with arguments and divisions within the religious orders. You find this in Islam, the more militant and the more conservative people. You find this in Buddhism, even among ourselves in our country, as well as outside, among Hinduism and among the Protestants and the Jews, as to what exactly religion is. And as the leader of the House said, the orthodox belief being challenged by new belief. What Pope John Paul did was to resolve the pro-justice issue. The Church will not defend totalitarianism and will stand for human rights. So the other major issue of pro-life has come up now, together with other moral and theological issues which the Universal Catholic Church has to face, such as abortion, same-sex marriage, child abuse, celibacy. And the successor to Pope John Paul had to really handle this transition. His task was not to take definite decisions, but to handle a transition, and the Holy Father did so successfully. Those who find fault with the Holy Father for failure to take a stand on these issues forget that politics is basically, whether it's the church politics or anything else, is the art of the possible. And when there are different views which surface after the fall of communism, issues which had secondary place in the church have surfaced now, you can't rush to take a position or support one group as against the other. And then the other dilemma of this church, like many of us, is they've got to live with a media which will take the high-profile issues to increase their market share. So it's something that when there were earlier issues, the earlier popes did not have to contend with. But we have to remember, at the end of the day, when we assess the papacy of Benedict XVI, that much has gone right in the Holy See, which has not been highlighted. And he has also paved the way for the more conscious issues to be resolved. I would like to just mention two of the issues. One is the Holy Father is known as the Green Pontiff. Not that he is supposed the UNP, but he has brought the environmental issues straight into the teachings of the Church. His articles on the environment, it should be read by everyone. And also, what his detractors forget is that he has re-emphasized again and again hope, faith, and love. And that has got precedence in the last few years of this papacy. And with the transition coming to an end, the Holy Father has done his job well. But he finds now that he does not have the strength of body and the mind necessary to carry out the work of the ministry in the next phase. This is not surprising. The Gautama Buddha in his teachings, in his Dhamma emphasis, laid equal emphasis on the mind and the body. You have to preserve your health while you keep your mind clear. And when you have a situation like this, you have to take a decision. Then the Holy Father, after prayer and reflection, which was expected of him, took a decision which he said was for the good of the Church. He announced his retirement. This is a case of humility in action. This is a shining and defining moment of Pope Benedict XVI's papacy. Of many of the comments that I read, I was really struck by a blog by a young person who said, it is really not a big deal. The Pope made it easier for a younger person to get elected, who then can go on to retire at a reasonable age. This is modernity, strengthening the Church. Of all that was said about the Holy Father, this is the one that struck me most. And in the final act of retirement, the Holy Father was breaking with tradition himself and bringing the Church into the 21st century. With his final act, Pope Benedict XVI became a revolutionary. He asked everyone, the Holy Father asked everyone, to keep praying for me, the Church, and the future Pope. Many of us, vast majority of us in this chamber and outside, are not followers of the Catholic faith. But we, in our own ways, according to our own religions, we should pray and seek the blessing for the Holy Father, for the Catholic Church, which is facing its own challenges, and for the future Pope, who will have to lead the Holy See. And Honorable Speaker, therefore I join the Leader of the House and our Chief Opposition Whip in expressing our appreciation of what the Holy Father has done, and let us, of all religions, again express satisfaction with the lead he gave to this world morally and spiritually. Thank you.